Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Mother of Father's Day murder accused seeks justice after her son was found dead in jail. Calls intensify for Zozo to be declared in central Kingston. And later, in sports, authorities hoping for UFC Premier League participation. I'm Giovanni Dennis and here are the details. We begin with news of another twist in the murder of a pregnant woman in Rhoden Hall, Kelitts, Clarendon on Sunday. The mother of the accused man, Markland Hills, says her son had nothing to do with the murder. That declaration despite the police account that he confessed to the killing in a statement.
No, sir, because he's not the person. He's not the person like that. He's not a child like that. He don't grow like that.
Now, Mr. Hills allegedly committed suicide while in police custody on Tuesday, but that should be Monday. But his mother is doubtful about the details surrounding her son's death.
Where him would get the card? Remember, when you lock up somebody, you don't go in a jail with no belt. You don't go in a jail with no shoes lace. You don't go in a jail with nothing, not even wallet. So when get the card, I go and see him with the card, tie on him shirt. You see the card? Type on him shirt, electric red card, type on him shirt. And him don't hang, cause when somebody hang, them tongue long out of them head. If him did have the mind to kill the girl, if him do it, he would have hang himself. And he would give up himself. He would make the police see him.
Indicom has since launched an investigation into Mr. Hill's death. Now, following calls from political representatives for the security forces to intervene to stem the bloodletting in central Kingston, a curfew has been imposed in sections of the community. The curfew began after 7 p.m. Monday and will continue until 7 p.m. Wednesday. Movement will be restricted north along East Queen Street from the intersection with Hanover Street to the intersection with South Camp Road. East along South Camp Road from the intersection with East Queen Street to the intersection with Water Lane. South along Water Lane from the intersection with South Camp Road to the intersection of Hanover Street, and west along Hanover Street from the intersection with Water Lane to the intersection with East Queen Street. Sections of the constituency have been locked in a bloody street war over the past few weeks, which has resulted in several killings. The police report that shootings and killings have increased more than 30% since the start of the year. To more reactions now on the latest Zones of Special Operations Zozo, which was declared in Norwood St. James. Our reporter O'Shane Masters has been speaking with the opposition spokesman on national security, Peter Bunting, and now joins us live. O'Shane, Mr. Bunting has long been critical of the government's crime-fighting measures. What new was he saying today?
Well, thanks, Giovanni. Well, interestingly, Mr. Bunting is making a case for Zozo in central Kingston. Given the crime situation there, he is of the view that increased police presence is not sufficient. In making his case, the opposition spokesman on national security referenced the figures issued by the police commissioner in the press conference on Sunday. Now, in justifying the need for a Zozo in Norwood, Major General Anthony Anderson told the country that there were 15 murders and 16 shootings in the area since January 1. But Mr. Bunting argues that the figures for central Kingston are even more staggering.
In central Kingston, there have been 12 murders since the 1st of May. So it is actually running at a much higher rate recently. And in the Kingston Central Police Division, which to a large extent coincides with the constituency of central Kingston, the murder rate is up quite substantially, over 40% this year.
Now, this debate over whether Zozo should be declared in central Kingston over Norwood has been ongoing. Here's what the police commissioner said on Sunday.
We've mobilized extra support from the Jamaica Defence Force, and also we have repositioned some of our own resources to hold some space where to deny the gangs the freedom of movement that they perhaps previously had. We're also directly targeting those gang members to get them into custody, and also the people who are supporting them abroad through and with our partners.
However, Mr. Bunting is suggesting there is a division based on social status.
I'm concerned that Central Kingston is being treated in many respects like they're children of a lesser God. Why do they only warrant the security measures without the social investment measures? But the most important phase is the build phase. And by the sustained social investment, you are able to draw down the level of the security forces over time, because you have now, in a sense, normalized the community, and you've made the high levels of violent crime the exception.
However, he made it clear that he has no issue with a zone of special operations being declared. In fact, he says more ZOZOs should have been established island-wide already. Now, Giovanni, I also spoke with Mr. Bunting on other crime-related issues, such as the state of emergency and the Vale Royal talks, but we will hear his responses to those in subsequent newscasts. For now, it's back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Shane, and of course we'll continue tracking that story. Now, Prime Minister Andrew Holness is expected to reveal the details about the limited reopening of the entertainment sector in Parliament this afternoon. Our Chief Parliamentary Reporter Vashan Brown has the preview.
Thanks, Giovanni. Well, there have been cries from stakeholders in the entertainment industry for the reopening of the sector. Now, the country will today hear details of the government's plan for reopening. As you may recall, when the Prime Minister spoke in Parliament earlier this month, he had indicated that he would give more information regarding the entertainment sector. Here's what the Prime Minister said on June 1.
We are engaged in discussions with the industry with a view to agreeing the appropriate protocols that could facilitate a limited reopening of the industry in the summer. Madam Speaker, you will recall that in our previous attempt to allow entertainment to open up in the summer of 2020 was one of the factors that resulted in our first spike. The discussions have been constructive and encouraging, and the industry has expressed a commitment to implementing strict protocols to allow it to operate in a safe and sustainable way.
Now, during her contribution to the sectoral debate in Parliament, Entertainment Minister Olivia Grange said her ministry has proposed a list of venues which can be used to facilitate entertainment events. Now, the ministry has also offered to subsidize the cost of using these venues. The Entertainment Minister spoke in Parliament on June 8.
We will also be moving to declaring additional entertainment zones and venues. Additionally, as with the sports sector, the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport is offering to subsidize the use of these facilities as a stimulus for the entertainment sector, which we know has suffered because of the pandemic. These venues include facilities at Independence Park, Trelawney Stadium, the Port Royal Entertainment Zone, including Fort Rocky and Fort Charles, as well as Seville Heritage Park.
So all of that brings us to today. High expectations that Prime Minister Andrew Holness will announce the protocols for the reopening of the entertainment sector in Gordon House this afternoon. Giovanni, it's back to you.
Our Chief Parliamentary Reporter Vashan Brown with that preview. It's now time for a break, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when we return on the Midday News. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. There are more calls for the Ministry of Health to collaborate with private doctors to administer COVID-19 vaccines. This comes as the government is faced with a major challenge in the health sector, administering the doses effectively and efficiently. The matter was raised on Radio Jamaica's Beyond the Headlines with Dion Jackson Miller on Monday. Shamala Pullen reports.
Just last week, there was frustration among persons who turned up for their second dose of the COVID-19 vaccine at vaccination sites across the island. The scene at the National Arena in St. Andrew on Saturday has certainly raised concerns as several elderly persons who had appointments were turned away. As a result, there's been calls for private doctors to be involved in administering the vaccines. Dr. Alveston Bailey is one such doctor. He believes the process would be much smoother.
What we are recommending is that private physicians be asked to mobilize the pool of vulnerable patients in their population, and they will then apply to the ministry to be given appropriate doses of vaccines to deliver to their patients. The reality on the ground is that our patients trust us, and they will listen to us, and we'll be very happy to take the vaccinations from us.
Chairman of the National Health Fund, Howard Mitchell, has long been in support of this move. He says with over 200 medical doctors administering vaccines yearly, these doctors are more than capable.
They have a system, the record keeping and the data reporting. We now have the UNICEF software platform. It's a simple matter of expanding it to them. As far as the question of their ancillary staff is concerned, you can't ask them to volunteer, and they should be paid. And I know that the private sector would be more than willing, and I speak as a private sector member, the private sector would be more than willing to facilitate payments for staff who give up their weekends or their overtime to do this. So it's simply a matter of putting our heads together and working this out, because the day we get 1 million vaccines in here, I guarantee you the public health sector alone can't do it.
In the meantime, President of the Medical Association of Jamaica, Dr. Andrew Manning, is also in support of the idea. Dr. Manning says some private doctors have already been involved at vaccination blitz sites across the country. However, he thinks the government should increase the numbers.
Whether or not the private doctors giving the dosages in their private office will help to speed it up. If we say get 500,000 to give in a month, I'm not sure. I think that the way to go is to have a well-organized blitz with an appointment system, with proper communication, and involving more of the private doctors in that route. And doctors are volunteered.
Shamela Pullen, TVJ News.